So the final brush I want to look at is the Color Dynamics brush. I just want to spend a little bit of time with that. With everything off, your brush just looks like an ordinary brush. So that's a hard normal brush. Okay, actually take that off as well. So we've got an ordinary brush. And what I want to do to it is just explore the possibilities here, and then also look at combining it with some of these other properties. If I start at the top, so if I put on foreground background jitter, well, what that does is it jitters between the foreground and background colors. So that's what I expect to see. Now at the moment the purity sits at this point here, which is kind of like a 0 point. It's kind of the mid-range. And if I remove the purity, so if I say -100, we get black and white. So whenever the purity is down there, you're going to get a grey tone version of the colours. If I push it right up, you're going to get a vivid interpretation of the colours. So it's up to you how vivid you want it to be. I'll leave it kind of quite vivid. And that's foreground and background jitters. So again, you can minimize the jittering, so it's just jittering a little bit, mid-range, or bring it right up, and it's jittering completely. So the dominant color is the foreground color, of course. Now there's a separate task sheet that you can have a go at filling in. So you can download that from the team's website. And you can explore all of these. I would suggest you explore it on a single brush, then maybe try it on a brush that's got a little bit of spacing in it so you can see what's actually happening. But I'm just going to jump back to Color Dynamics, and I'm going to leave the foreground background jittering off and move on to the control. So I'm going to ask it to have a fade. Okay, at the moment it's fade over 50, so you get that kind of thing. So if I want it to fade slower, I can add in more numbers. Foreground and background jittering will give us a jittering effect, so it goes in between the colors until it comes to the pure color. So the idea of the fade is to go from one color to the other. Jittering interferes with it and puts the color back in again. So I'm going to leave it pure, and therefore if I went up to say 150, I can get more of a kind of gradient type effect. I'm going to put it back to 50. Oh, actually I'll leave it at 150. But I'm going to leave these for the moment and just show you what happens. The texture that I used in an earlier video, if I put that in, we get that kind of thing. So we can add in texture. If I add in scattering, so this is previous scattering, you can see we get a glorious effect. And I've still got the texture switched on there, and it's still fading in between the two colors as well. So you can go in and play with these. So we could even give it size jittering. Let's just try it with size jittering. So we're changing the physical size, and let's turn that off. Okay. So you've got a lot of options, and it's just you can make some really incredible brushes. If you do make something you like, remember to hit the save button down here. So I'm going to now turn those back off again and come back into Color Dynamics. So if I turn the fade off and just look at hue, on the exercise, what I ask you to do is to just try each one individually, turn them off again, turn on the next one, and try it between the two colours. Again, sometimes things look similar, and you know, it really depends on the combinations of colour and brushes and what you're doing. Okay. Then to try it all again with fade switched on, so you can see how fade changes everything. So if I just have a hue jitter, it's literally changing more colour, and we get this wonderful 3D effect almost with this kind of brush. So that's jittering between all the colours, taking these as a starting point, but it's going to jitter between all of the hues. So if I reduce it, we've got less hue jitter, but we're basing it on the foreground colour. Saturation, we'll do the same. So at 100%, we're just going in between. And what you might like to do is for all of these tools, so let's just go back to the hue jitter, you know, try slowing it down so you can see what it's doing, as well as speeding it up. Let's go back to color dynamics, try the saturation, and then if I slow it down, you get a better idea of what it's actually doing. It's desaturating the foreground colour. And then you've simply got one which is a brightness jitter. And of course you wouldn't normally probably be doing it on its own, you'd be doing it in combination. But the brightness jitter kind of almost does the opposite of the saturation jitter. It's giving us depth as well, and then you could try it, the full brush, and so on. So you've got some just really beautiful things that you can do with that. But then, as I say, when you add in other aspects, you know, such as the texture, so let's just reset this. So I'm going to go hue jitter, take the brightness out, maybe put a bit of saturation in, put in some scattering, and then we've got this kind of ridiculous brush. And I'm going to save that one, I quite like that one. Test one. Okay, so remember your brushes are being saved into this space here under brushes, which is here and also here, so that will bring up brushes. And if I've had my folder selected, they would go in the folder. If not, you can just drag them in. So I want you to fall in love with brushes and experiment and play, but look at the sample sheets that I've prepared, and you can make your own if you don't want to do the work on the ones that I've given you, but explore the possibilities that the brushes give you, just in a straightforward way, and then also look at what you can do with them. So here we're using transfer, so at the moment I've got transfer on opacity fade. I'm going to go transfer on flow. Oops. Let's make it 50. You know, experiment. You're going to get different things happening. So here we've kind of got a weird brush happening. What I'd say to you is, you know, I mean, now I'm just going crazy. I'm switching on all of these. I would avoid adding in too much because it can get out of control. So if I put on a dual brush now, I'm never going to see two brushes now. So pick wisely, but experiment and have a lot of fun with the brushes.